Why don't we try it? And if occasionally, if you're driving by, stop and just sort of see, it'll still get cleaned.
They do that once a week?
Once a
or-
week, yeah.
Huh.
And so why don't we try it? Because it maybe there's just not that much activity and we don't have to bother. And then, but if you see that it's a problem, just report to me and then if you can lock it up, but I will get you a key.
Okay.
Key. And I'll ask Warwick to keep an eye on it and maybe they will lock and unlock it themselves. I mean, it's good for them because their toilet has limited capacity. So if they're ever doing school events or something,
I like that one.
they can use it, yeah. I sent around a link to a YouTube video about a transfer bench and a kayak chariot. I don't know if
I saw it.
you saw it. Did you get a chance
I
to
didn't
see it?
see that.
Okay, basically it is there's wheels this big around on the
Yep.
chariot and an axle and some way to fasten a kayak to it. So for somebody who's in a wheelchair, you take a kayak and you drop it between the wheels and you tie it down. And then there's a transfer bench which is sort of sized to the chariot so that a handicapped person can roll up to the kayak, put his handle down, somehow put the transfer bench there, slide over, and then use the handlebars, I guess, on the
It's
bench.
actually 3 pieces, one on each side and one in the back.
Right, to sort of lower him or herself into the kayak, and then because it's on wheels, the person because you sort of have to do this on dry ground and on slippery ground, and maybe not even on angle. And then the person who's helping them then kind of rolls him in and pulls these big inflatable wheels or big bulky wheels back. It's a cool way for wheelchair folks to get in the water. And it seems,
How do they get out?
well,
The reverse.
reverse. And,
Everything.
and there's some handicapped people who say, oh, we're going to have the whole thing so an individual can do it. And I've been working with the Disability Commission. I said the reality is any elderly person, unless is taking a chance by themselves going down the river from the head, we have very limited ability to rescue or alert
Right.
people. And so even though it's not totally ADA compliant, this forces us, the handicapped person, to basically have a helper, which realistically is somebody from the kayak shop renting them the boat, taking some responsibility for this, or a friend that helps get the boat off his roof. And it's a solution that works and makes you have a helper so that you have an appointment. If the helper's not going with you, they come back. If you say you're going to be out an hour, they come back after they've had coffee across the road or whatever to help you get out. So I think it's a pretty good solution. The plan had been, when we designed the head years ago, that there was room next to the Porta-John inside that enclosure to chain the thing up, because it is $3,400 for the whole setup. The Disability Commission would buy it. I don't really want the Landing Commission to have liability here.
That's what I was gonna ask you about. was
Yeah, I would
liability.
like the Disability Commission to have liability. And so so there's room there to lock it up. They are gonna talk about it at their next meeting. One of them said, well, maybe we should just get the transfer bench, but then you'd have to slide the whole boat down the ramp. So I just got that email from them recently. I will speak to them. I don't think it's useful without the wheels myself. I don't see why you would transfer into a boat and then have to then have to slide 20 feet into the water.
Yeah,
I mean, you both have seen this, right?
yeah. Yeah, I like the chariot idea, but I can't imagine trying to put a 120-pound or plus person in that kayak and then sliding them down the, it is good in that case that it's a slimy landing, but
So
we're trying to get rid of the slime, so.
Right. So-
The person sliming him down is gonna slip and fall. That's-
Right.
Yeah, right.
So I
Sounds
guess
very-
that would be my recommendation to them. I'm okay with the idea of that being there. It's certainly, we would have to figure out a way of locking it, I think. But I think just a chain and a combination of lock that would be available to the Disability Commission, to the kayak shop, and somebody here, so that if somebody can somehow tell us, and because we'll publicize it, that, and it may be that nobody will ever use it, but that's okay. The reality for handicapped folks, that they know it's a possibility, helps people get through their day sometimes. And it also might, I'm not sure, but I mean, I do a little bit of kayaking. It is not as easy for me to get up off the floor as it used to be. And so for a lot of just older folks not in wheelchairs, this might be a handy thing. So I'm not asking for money tonight, but I am asking for approval to go ahead with the idea of being able to store it for next season if the Disability Commission chooses to buy it.
What
I
are we
notion
gonna
that
call
we support that.
I'd be in favor if we're not taking on any liability.
Right. No cost, no liability.
Right. There was talk about putting it at Hicks Bridge. I said no. But we could say yes if we want. It just seems like, I don't want to put a wheelchair person in the water there
It's deep.
with everything
real
else
quick.
that goes on there, all that current.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bridge and, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we
It
have a
can-
bridge
it
at
can
the
be-
head too, but the current's nowhere near as bad and
It's,
Yeah, and
well,
it's
the water's
actually-
only this deep.
not
It
as,
can
yeah,
be chaos down there.
Yeah, the water's
Yeah.
only this deep.
yeah.
There is a more complex piece of equipment if they were interested in doing it. I've seen it at the boat show a couple of times. And it actually hooks onto a dock
And it looks like this,
Mhm.
and you
put your kayak in it, and the
Right.
thing, have you ever seen this?
I've
Is that-
seen all that
Like a
stuff,
boat,
but the thing is that we don't have a dock.
You could put it on the wall.
Yeah, but the reality is, when I've spoken to the veterans group and everything else, the only handicapped people in the, I don't know, 12 years that the lads ran the kayak shop, the only handicapped person they ever saw come and try to use the river on their own was when they organized for a group of vets, and they were actually trained in dealing with handicapped people on the water. And the group of 8 or 9 vets came down, and they were youngish vets, so they helped get them in and out. And and when I spoke to the veterans person in this office, I said, in general, do you have disabled veterans who are ex-Navy SEALs and want to do this kind of thing? And she said, no, most of the people that they're dealing with in Westport are much older and so there may not be much interest. And so I don't think we don't want to,
Just thought I'd
you know,
throw that out.
just like when we redesign Hicks Bridge, we want to be thinking about making it better for most people, but really it's going to make it better maybe for elderly people may use this thing and not necessarily full-on wheelchair folks. That's my sense. And it may never get used, but again, I think that's okay. So I will entertain a motion to
So
sort of say it's
is that
okay.
Yeah, so did we vote? Is that approved?
We don't have a motion yet.
Oh, I motioned.
Oh,
Richie
second.
Richie seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much. And the YouTube video link is there, Richie, and it's in your email if you ever care about seeing it. I mean,
Okay.
it's not a perfect solution, it does require a little bit of, but
But we don't want.
Well, people that are in wheelchairs have some shoulder strength,
We gotta
too.
have some muscle.
Yep. Head landing, there's an ongoing goose problem there. It was suggested by someone who apparently knows about wild plants and stuff, that if we mowed it less and let the grass come up in places, that the geese apparently like mowed grass, which I don't understand. I don't know if anyone has knowledge about geese or not, and what we ought to.
It has been the worst this year that I've ever seen it in
Right.
30
The other
years.
thing they had suggested in general was to let the grass grow much higher and see whatever came up for about a foot back from the wall. In other words, basically, you'd have a span of about a foot to let it get really high, and that somehow would better deal with whatever toxic runoff is coming off the river, and might eat more water out of the mushy grass too. I don't know enough about that, and the reality of trying to get the highway commission to allow some of that to become kind of a rain garden.
Well, and did we ever get the stone guy to do the repairs? Because you want to get those fixed before you mask it with tall grass.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if the stone guy ever came back or not.
I never saw him, but
The stone
I
guy.
haven't walked along that wall this summer.
Right, okay, well, I'm getting a list here.
Stone guy, is he really stone?
Well,
Not stone, stone,
the wall guy,
the rock guy.
the spec on rebuilding the stone wall was to rebuild the stone wall and to use rocks this big to point it or to fill in. And this young, very knowledgeable stone guy that we met with, said that when he did it, he spoke with Sean, the engineer, said, you really want to use that? And for some reason, Sean insisted. He said, it's going to wash out. You should really be using rocks this big. Sean insisted the rocks washed out. So there's places along that wall that need to be repointed. When we met with him, he said he would come back
In
and
the
do it
spring.
in the spring and do it. And
He
so,
didn't say which spring.
right. But he was a nice guy, and we really want to encourage people that are doing this kind of work. It is really hard to get anybody to even quote on these jobs. There are very few people that do work in the water. And he was a great resource. I mean, he did a good job. So I will call the stone guy.
Do we really want to take a position about geese? There's going to be people who are going to say, the geese were here before we were, and that we invaded their habitat and not the other way around.
Yeah, but they went to Canada a lot. They were not here, they were in Canada. So they call them Canadian geese. And there is a movement now to change the law too, because there's so many of them. It did occur to me, and I did research what it would take, because I know that some places in Rhode Island have gotten these coyote sculpture things that make the geese go away. Unfortunately, those are all like $60 to $90, and that's an open area. My concern was the coyotes might go away on their own. And then I thought, and I'm halfway through doing this, that I could, those people that make lawn signs? Well, I downloaded a picture of a photo of a coyote. I thought I'd try printing that on both sides of the lawn sign, then cut it out and see if that worked, because those would only be like $4 or $5 each.
The golf course, over the harbor, the only way they're getting rid of the geese is with an Australian dog
Australian
and a
Shepherd.
girl.
Who just lives there.
Well, no, I think they hire her, and she comes over every day at a certain time.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah,
So they actually pay her.
yeah.
Could you get back to me with that contact?
I think my Jack Russell will do it for half the price. No, just kidding.
Well, no, but I think I know there's a group of people over near Hicks Bridge that, on the sledding hill, that regularly do something with dogs
Yeah.
from trucks.
Training,
They're training, hunting dogs,
training.
Right.
retrievers.
Would people be okay if those dogs, for a while, did a little training up ahead? I mean, I don't know if we,
Well, they set up, they have certain distances and stands and stuff when they're training those retrievers.
but
I
they
don't
might
think we've got
wanna
room
do it.
enough.
I think they'd worry about traffic there,
Yeah.
maybe with two roads coming and
no,
stuff.
we could ask. But would that be okay with people? If I'm just thinking if we
Oh, yeah, they get to swim too, because they
If we
could
let
do
them-
each side of the river.
Yeah, if we let them know that, if we let the geese know that this is not a friendly place, maybe they won't come back. People okay with that?
Yeah, that's
They
good.
brought hunters with them, you'd really have two for one.
No.
Too close.
All right, so that would be okay, and I may pursue this plastic thing.
Yeah, silhouettes.
But about the mowing changes, anybody has an idea about that? About whether the grass gets tall?
Yeah, I don't, I just would be worried about doing that buffer of tall grass until, before the rocks get fixed, because as people walk through it, they can't see the holes that are there.
Oh.
And so they would fall in the holes. That's, there's a couple places that
Right.
it's dangerous.
Yeah, and this
But if
would
you can
be-
see it, you,
Right,
And
okay.
then they'll get ticks.
Yeah.
I'd rather have geese or ticks.
Okay. Okay. Hicksbridge Landing update. And this also says public comment period, engineering review, and the exit easement.
yeah, what's going on with that? That's what we're stumbling on right now, is the,
They are being non-responsive. We are speaking about, so I've emailed them twice. I will pursue them again. Some amount of the exit ramp is actually on the Masons' property, which they bought from the town for $1 26 years ago. So, and then the town did a lot of work, along with a lot of other people, to improve that property and build that lawn of theirs and the exit ramp. So, and there's no clear agreement in writing about that. So, we want to get a clear agreement in writing. So I will pursue them again, but Jim Hartnett thought that we should go ahead with the planning process anyhow, because it won't be much of a landing without that exit ramp.
right,
So I will be in touch with the engineering company. I know when we looked at their draft design, there were surprisingly few trailer spaces to me. I don't remember whether it was 18 or 28 or something.
really small.
It was really small. Recently, I happened to go by there on a sunny, warm day weekend day in August or something. I was stunned at how many trailers were there. I
True.
mean, and I took photos.
2 weekends I was by and it was jam-packed full, and they were even parking up on
They were-
the sides of the exit ramp.
The way the exit ramp has been improved, there's actually illegal parking along that, which will likely not necessarily get enforced. But, so I'm gonna send photos of that. My sense of part of why there weren't a lot of trailer slots was they had left a lot of spots for cars. And there's also an issue about runoff, and so I don't know how big they were making the rain gardens. So, and when I've had some conversation with the largest group of people that use it, which is the rowing people, they usually can use a trailer spot because they park each other in. And they just do that on their own. So we just need to speak with the engineering company and see if they'll reconsider a different layout and why they chose that layout.
Yeah,
and then-
they're-
We'll have a meeting with them, maybe at our next meeting, they can either come here, and I've enlisted the help of 2 people from the planning board, because I'm not good at pursuing the paperwork, and that's what those folks are good at. And we'll go from there, and then go into an official public comment period where we review things, get other people's ideas, and at some point we'll have to get the exit easement figured out. We happen today to have a neighbor. Would you like to share anything with us?
Yes, Richard Murphy, 282 Hicksbridge Road. Oh, sorry.
Thank you for showing up.
Okay, Richard Murphy, 282 Hicksbridge Road. I live just opposite the landing, and I guess I'm the closest to Butter.
Mhm.
But I'm not familiar with what the plan is to do to the exit ramp. Are you going to be paving it?
Yes.
Okay.
And paving the whole thing. building rain gardens so that the parking lot will no longer wash dirt and sand into the river. It'll wash it to the sides, so that hopefully it'll be better and hopefully require less maintenance and be more organized parking.
Is there a plan for lighting?
No.
Okay. Is there a plan for limiting the use of it, such as dawn to dusk, as they do over in Adamsville?
I don't know. I think there's probably, we're in a little bit of sort of funny territory here because it's unclear whether the Hicksbridge Landing is the responsibility of the Landing Commission or the responsibility of the selectmen. We've chosen to help out the selectmen and start this process. And we own a little bit of that property, and we own the property across the river directly from you, that grassy knoll. But we don't own most of the parking lot. Typically, on landing commission landings, you can't park overnight. But there are people who fish at night, there are people who eel at night. And so in the past, we have been open to people who show up at night and want to do something for a while and then leave before, I don't know, 12, 24 hours. In other words, we don't want people parked there forever. But I think it's rarely enforced realistically.
Yes, well, it's not enforced. Well, my concern is safety over
Mhm.
there, and as you will probably recall, there was an incident where a young girl was paralyzed at night boating out of the Hicksbridge Landing. And we've also rescued several kids who have fallen off or jumped off the bridge on the wrong side and broken legs and so forth. And it is a very dangerous area, and particularly at night. And I've heard kids jumping off of the bridges at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, obviously parking over there at night. And it is a very dangerous environment at night. So if you're not going to spend $100,000 to put lighting in there, then I would really ask the commission to consider putting some restrictions as far as night usage of that area. Now, particularly if you're going to be paving it, it's going to become a very convenient spot for lovers lane and so forth, and drinking and partying and using the porta-john that's there, stealing boats that are left there for the kayakers and the rowers and so forth. So my concern is safety. Same thing with regards to a speed limit or under no wake zone. People going under that bridge in jet skis at 65 miles an hour.
With fisherman's lines.
Whenever I go under the bridge, I bring a pair of scissors. So if they're fishing in the channel, they're going to lose their lures. But the thing is, it's safety.
Yeah.
And the kids jumping off the bridge, which police very rarely do anything about. People honking their horns, encouraging people to jump off the bridge, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning, hearing these horns blaring is really a nuisance.
Is it your opinion that lighting it would make it more of a nighttime fun spot or less of a nighttime fun spot?
Probably a mixture of both. I don't think it's worth the expense. I think they should just take
Landing's right for nighttime use.
Yes, or misuse.
Yeah.
And if it's not going to be patrolled by the police, which is very rarely done, I think you really should put some limits as far as the use of that landing at night.
Oh, okay. Well, you're supposed to have a permit
Yes,
anytime,
yes.
and so,
Don't you just need the permit to park?
Just to park. You can use it and drive away, but you don't need a permit,
Right,
but you do need a permit to park.
but when people are putting themselves at risk, they're not driving away. They're parking and then
Parking.
they're jumping off the
Or
bridge.
they're just getting dumped off by friends.
Right.
Or they're riding their bicycles there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kids. It's a rite of passage, and I understand that.
There's laws on the books through the harbor department no jumping off any bridges in Westport.
Oh,
Mhm.
really?
Yeah, and that's passed, you know, through the Board of Selectmen. It's not a bylaw, it's rules and regulations of the river.
It's
And
not
we used to
enforced.
mark the top of the railing, no jumping over the channel
Mm.
with lettering,
Mhm.
but it comes down to enforcement. And you know how that is, it costs money and
Mhm.
it's
Just like
distance
it's
and.
posted, no fishing in the channel. and-
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That doesn't help because if they don't jump over the channel, they're jumping over the areas where there's
It's
lots of
shallow.
rocks and
Right,
shallows.
Right.
And that's where I have to go out there and practice my first aid skills.
Mhm.
And my son has literally dove in and pulled out a semi-conscious kid, and, you know, we,
Yeah, no, it's,
and the crabbers also take advantage of the parking there as
So-
well.
So we could certainly put a sign up, but given the tradition of people, I think there used to be a sign there. But given the tradition,
we used to
some-
paint it right on the railing before
Yeah.
before they
No
did the
fishing's
bridge.
there, but no jumping.
No fishing over the channel, no jumping.
If
no-
you go to
Yeah.
Paid Aram, you'll see that they've actually placed a fence over the area of the channel, which
Right.
is, it prevents people from jumping off of it as well as fishing from it.
Huh.
The only problem is I worry that they'll move other areas
Yeah,
that are
right.
shallow, and then they're gonna be in trouble.
Really,
But I
Yeah,
usually
my
after,
brother did it. My
Yeah.
brother, you know, some kid says, "Oh, my brother did it, and they couldn't
Yeah.
jump here, so he must have jumped there." And
Well, I think at a minimum, the town ought to put a sign up to protect themselves from liability. And I would encourage you to, if you're comfortable, whenever you see, when I drive by there and there's a group of kids, and particularly some of them are young and it's windy, and I see uncertain kids kind of going, and they're being egged on, and I was like, what if they fall backward onto the sidewalk and hit their head on the curb? Like,
fall into the road and get run over.
I know, and I call the police and I report it, that people are jumping. I don't know if they will show up or not,
They won't.
but I think it's worth going on record, because they record those calls. And I think it's, if you're comfortable making those calls, I would encourage you to do that. I think we should put a sign up.
I don't know if you,
I've been there on Thursday nights for Dharma race training,
Yeah.
and there's been kids jumping off that bridge with their parents standing on the dock.
yeah,
They drive them there to jump off the dock.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, like I say, I think it's not a bad idea to have a sign there that encourages people not to do it. I don't know if, and I can ask the town manager whether it's possible to have a fine for jumping. Ooh.
community service.
I mean, we can,
but just the use of the landing at night in total darkness, I have trouble backing up my boat trailer in the daytime and trying to rescue and recover a boat at 3 o'clock in the morning. Perhaps someone's had a little bit too much to drink, and they don't put the boat on the trailer properly, and then they pull out the exit as opposed to they pull out the entrance as opposed to the exit.
Yeah.
And then you find a boat lying in your front yard the next day because they didn't strap it down or they were inebriated, and this has happened in the past. And
Wow.
the police will probably document that. So my concern is safety at the landing, and I would really wish you guys would consider placing some restrictions as far as nighttime use of the landing.
okay,
That's all I have to say.
we appreciate that, no, we really do.
It's
And-
good comments.
Hmm?
I say it's good comments.
Yeah,
When things are open 24 hours a day, it's
right, I
a
don't,
long day.
I mean, certainly, if someone would lock and unlock it, put a chain up.
Adamsville is not locked, but there is a sign there that says it's only used, should be used dawn to dusk.
Right, but Adamsville is useless as a landing for
It's
boats.
the precedent that's been set.
Right, yep,
And
no,
the precedent, I mean, and why do they have that there?
it's
because
actually
there's no
a
landing.
precedent at all our landings. Although obviously at the Point Landing, it's completely unenforced because that is a nighttime parking lot, 24-hour day parking lot for fishermen and other people. I mean, it's in our bylaws or the Landing Commission's code of conduct, there's no overnight use. This would be more like defining it as dawn to dusk or something.
But you're not restricting them from using a landing, because they can always go down and use the state landing.
That's a 24/7.
And I'm not sure what the lighting is like down there, but I'm sure it's better than it
It's
is at Hicks Bridge.
Yeah.
So I think you're not depriving the citizenry of getting out and doing nighttime fishing. You're just restricting it to an area that it's a safer environment, has better lighting, and it's a much better landing to launch or recover a boat
Oh, yeah.
downtown.
Until we build the new one.
Please don't.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank
And
Thank you.
Good one.
it would be great to get your contact information.
Certainly.
You comfortable sharing that?
Oh, I'll give it to you at the end of the meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. Point Landing, there was the bill to pave it was
Me, that
like,
cost money.
$90,000 or something, and ended up that they were $3,422.65 over what
Budget.
had been allotted. And Mr. Hartnett asked us, since we have money in our account, we rarely use it, how do we feel about paying for the paving? No, just the $3,400.
Yeah. Somebody's gotta pay it.
Yeah,
And it was done, a percentage of it was done on our property, right?
a lot of it, yeah.
Or the town landing property.
Do you have an
I feel
opinion?
awful about it.
Hmm?
I feel awful about it.
Well,
I have like never paved anything in my life.
well, this may make you feel better. It turns out that was paved
Years ago.
because when they went to do the work and scraped away the dirt, oops, pavement. And actually, well, you know, that you were with me, the pavement actually extends under the grass.
I move we pay the balance.
Second.
Any
Discussion.
discussion? All in favor? You don't have to vote.
I
Aye.
abstain. I abstain.
Aye, you can vote no.
No, I abstain.
Wait. Oops, I'm on TV. Okay. So, are you making a
Because I'm not
record?
opposed to it
No.
per se, but I just can't.
Well, they put a nice, they put a
70
nice
some
drainage
years
ditch
of,
on.
You need
They
to
put a
sleep
nice
at
drainage
night.
ditch on the north side.
Yeah, I
You need
haven't
to
seen
sleep
it.
at night. All right. Point Landing. When we negotiated with the Hayneses and the Packwachuck for what we did and to not extend further onto onto our property, which they're using as their property, they agreed to move that anchor so that they would be providing the 10 to 14 parking spaces they're supposed to be using, because that allowed them to get more cars in there. Last time I was there, the anchor wasn't moved.
So are you saying they're supposed to move it completely or just move it back off town property? What are you saying?
They were gonna move it to somewhere else that did not interfere with parking, so that they could more efficiently park more cars. I don't know where they're gonna move it, that's up to them. So,
This was understood to be,
this was not a written agreement. We said, okay, we're not going to extend further into what looks like your lawn, but it's actually town property. We're not going to further extend with paving. They said, well, that, and they said in return for that, they would move the anchor. I never agreed to the wheel stops that run north-south. We only agreed to the wheel stops in front of the Packwachuck, but the highway department, for some reason, decided to put wheel stops everywhere. And so I need to be in contact with the Hayneses, because at a very minimum, they were concerned that there not be a wheel stop at the corner, so that if they ever, with a big piece of equipment or trailer, needed to sort of
Right.
cut that corner, that they could do that. So.
you're talking about the northeast corner towards the bridge,
Yeah.
not towards the road.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I will be speaking with them about having that wheel stop removed, but I also just wanted some feedback from folks
What do we
about,
gain by having to move the anchor? If we're not going into the grass any further, why is the anchor on?
then they at least have the ability to park the 12 cars on their property that they are required by the zoning board of appeals in return for being allowed to have a marina on Commonwealth land.
Yeah.
They agreed to provide parking for their customers.
So there,
And
that
they-
anchor's preventing some of those parking spaces they showed on their plan from being used because
Right.
it's a,
Yeah. So it's more like, guys, you said you'd do this, come on, do it. And I don't know if they'll in fact,
So is anybody, since the curb stop, has anybody brought it up to them?
no, not yet, that's why I'm bringing it up to you.
Well, I moved you to the group that Jeff talked to him.
Yep, and the,
Might be an easy fix.
do our part of, do our
Might be an
part of the
easy
deal
fix.
and they do their part of the deal.
yeah, and then it's, you know, if they are ever get that organized, I don't know, I'm not down there on weekends.
Mhm.
I have less and less interest in pursuing and in myself and being the difficult person in the world. But at least they have the ability to do that and move more of their customers in there. Similarly, you know, there's, the Paquatuck has this kind of dirt road into the river
Toward
between
the
the
bridge.
between the Haynes, right, toward the bridge. And when the Paquatuck got permission to be more of a business, the zoning board of appeals said, well, show us the parking. And she had to create parking for 4 or 5 cars along that, where that dirt road is into the water.
Right.
And I pushed her pretty hard last year about getting a bunch of old kayaks and other stuff out of that parking area so she could use it. I've been there multiple times and her customers are not regularly using that parking. I've actually never seen cars parked there. Maybe when it gets really busy and people know that's available, they use it. Again, I don't want to be regularly pressing her about that, but I think that it is worth making the point because again, that was the deal she made. But it is hard to do enforcement in a small town. I mean, I have been there, one day I was there and 3 guys parked on the landing, on the public parking, walked across the landing, across her lawn, out her dock, into their boat.
That's the reality.
And then 15 minutes later, 2 young women, about the age of the 3 young men, parked next to them and got in the boat with them. So I think it's worth the Landing Commission making a point about, or at least to the Zoning Board of Appeals or something about, you're supposed to be doing this. I mean, how bad was, I'm not there in the summer. I'm here, but I don't go to the landing. How bad was the parking with the oyster business
Well,
this year?
it fills up pretty quick from about 11:45 on a weekend, say 11:30, 11:45, till about 7 at night, if the weather's good.
And do they park all the way up to your house?
No, they probably park about 1,000 feet up the road
And
on
is,
the east side,
and is the neighborhood complaining?
halfway to the, I haven't heard any complaints from any neighbors. But the reality is the parking spaces in front of the houses
Right.
are filled probably halfway to the post office on the east side.
So there isn't
When
the
it's
big
real
uproar
busy.
there was.
There,
for
there
the-
is,
I'm sorry, what?
there is an uproar on the point. I know some people who live down there who boycotting the oyster place because of crowds that they're contending with.
Mhm.
I think there's been some recent zoning board of appeals action on the oyster place, but I'm not familiar enough with it to tell you what it was.
Okay.
But they were on the agenda recently.
Huh.
So you may see some changes there.
Right. Well, but it's not just them. It's any business down there that had an agreement with the town to do something and then is the zoning board of appeals. So how about if I speak with the zoning board of appeals? Because in some ways, we are just in a butter
Right.
that is concerned about the public interest. In other words, I don't want to be the enforcer. I mean, I can speak with the Hayneses about, hey, we had a deal, but it's really up to the zoning board of appeals to be,
The enforcer.
I mean, I don't know how they're gonna have the building inspector go down there on a Saturday afternoon and say to the Hayneses, hey, and, or whether, so it's, you know, enforcement's gonna be tricky. I just think it's worth making a point. So maybe it's best to just make it to the zoning board as an abutter. And say, are you aware of this? That you,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
okay,
I think that's, since we know that it's on their agenda and they're considering
Okay.
things, I think that would be good
Right.
to chime in. And-
okay. So I will probably send them a letter, because that makes it a little more
Yeah,
than a
oh, yeah,
phone call.
definitely.
Could I have a motion to send them a letter?
I motion that Jeff Bull, Chairman Jeff Bull, send a letter to the Board of Appeals indicating that we have a concern over local businesses using the town landing property that was intended to be for the use of the town landing.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Great. Picnic bench at the west side of Hicks Bridge. The grassy knoll that you
Sounds
look
like
at
Dallas.
regularly.
Where are they gonna park
Well, they will either park at the town landing
if they have a sticker?
if they have a sticker. But we have also spoken with the safety officer at the police department about making one handicap spot and then 3 spots along the road there where there's room to be sticker parking. So the safety officer was okay with it, but sort of didn't follow through multiple times when I spoke with him about the next move is the select board. So we haven't done anything about it.
The other town travelers would love it.
Yeah.
But, right, I mean, and that's the concern, which is an issue, but they won't crab from those rocks. I mean, they could crab there now,
They crab there now,
from the grassy knoll.
yes.
They climb down the rocks and, huh, I did not know that.
The environmental police have helped us move them from our side of the river to that side of the river.
And so, is it your feeling that it'll look even more welcoming if there's a picnic bench
Yes.
there? But it is a town resource. It's a beautiful spot.
Put a bench there. Just don't put parking there though.
I would
It's
think
also a dangerous place.
Safety wise, I would think the
It's a-
parking would be dicey as hell.
It's a dangerous place to pull out of.
It is not a great place. It would have to be parallel parking. We spoke with the police about it. We've actually cleared a lot of the brush as you go west off the bridge, so there's better line of sight. So maybe we just put a picnic bench there, and then people will arrive on bicycles, however they get there. And we,
Is it a seating bench or a picnic bench? Is it, you mentioned a picnic
Just
table.
a bench that you sit on, or?
yeah, no, I was thinking about a picnic table.
If you put a picnic table next, will come the barbecues and
Trash.
So you're thinking
tents
more of
and-
just a plastic bench might be a good idea.
Nice little wooden or metal bench would be very nice, but I worry about the safety of the vehicles that come over that bridge at
Mhm.
35, 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
The manure trucks,
Mhm.
the potters, trucks, they're not gonna be able to stop if someone pulls out over there.
Right.
It's a dangerous
Yeah.
place.
The benches we have at the head, they have held up pretty well.
Yeah, that's a little good.
What do people think about a bench instead of a picnic table? I mean, people could still sit and have lunch,
Yeah.
but it becomes less of a big event.
Right.
There's just, and maybe no signing, no signage. But we can somehow
Oh, it's
let,
got a sign there now.
huh?
It's got a sign there now.
It's just a historical sign that says that
Yeah.
something, but I mean, in other words, not inviting people to come use the picnic bench, just let that gradually get known.
Yeah,
Subscribers to Shorelines or something. Yeah, because it doesn't look public, but it's obviously, if the public's using it, but these are public that are used to sort of pushing the limits, it sounds like, they're grabbing people. All right, so I will look into the cost of a picnic bench and we will get together
A
again.
bench.
I'm sorry, a bench
a sitting bench.
bench, and then get back to you, so we do not need a motion on this. Adamsville Landing, we keep talking about signage and I have not followed up.
Speaking about Adamsville, I drove by there the other day coming back from golf, and I think I saw a for sale sign.
On,
There is a lot, and
Unless it's the property next door,
Yeah.
I just, it was a
yeah,
perfume
it is the
thing.
property next door. It's an approval not required lot because it was made by the owners like 50 years ago.
Yeah,
And she is now, needs a retirement account. So
is it
she's going,
Becky Turner's? I
yes,
thought so.
yep, so,
Hmm.
yes.
which side of the property, north or
It's
south?
just south
Yeah,
of the
yeah, that's where I saw
Cranberry
the sign,
property,
yeah.
just south of there, and there's nothing, when I spoke with the Conservation Commission, because I got the notice, or we got the notice, there's nothing that can be said about it. I mean, that they'll have to be right by whatever they do,
Right,
and
so it wasn't with the property with the metal roof?
no, she's still there, yeah, and will be for a while. What do you think? Think we should have more signage? We keep talking about it.
We talked about doing a sign like the one at the head, that same format.
That same size and put one at the Emma Tripp and at Adamsville. It's probably, we'd have to figure out eventually what to do about Hicks Bridge. And I'm not sure what we should do, particularly about the landing at Gooseberry, because that's sort of a beach parking lot at this point. So I would sort of leave that one alone.
Just while it's sticking in my head, in 2011, the Landing Commission made a lease agreement through the Harbor Department on Hicks Bridge. Have you ever seen that?
No.
I've got a copy of it.
Well,
I think it's a renewable
In
lease.
2011,
Yeah,
because in the long past,
You're full of
there is
information.
documentation.
Huh?
No,
You're full
I
of
have seen,
information tonight.
I have seen leases,
well, Carl Tripp was on the chairman of the board here.
right,
Yeah,
but I have seen, I think I was on the Land Commission.
George.
Right. But I think it was before that, for a while, the Landing Commission had some sort of extended responsibility for Hicks Bridge and wanted to have that. And I can't imagine that it was when Carl was chair. 'cause
What
he
I'm
was-
saying is, I've got a copy of this, I'll get it to you.
Okay, well, no, I am aware that,
Whether it's been renewed or not.
I've seen it, Norma Judson, there was a deal for $10 a year or something that the Landing Commission took over management of Hicks Bridge. But then there was an issue when the bridge got fixed,
Yeah,
that the select board had to sort of take responsibility for that area or something.
because the landing itself is very small, percentage-wise of the whole.
Right, it's about, I think the line is somewhere close to the middle of the entrance road and then over to the bridge. So I'm
This is
pretty,
the
Okay.
actual landing? This, that small amount is the actual landing?
you mean that belongs to the Landing Commission?
Oh,
It's a small piece, the ramp is
Yeah.
on.
In other words,
selectmen's
If this is the river, this
property.
is
When
the
they built the
bridge,
ramp,
this
they built the ramp,
is,
it was put over on the
this is
selectmen's
this.
side, what they control.
The landing owns, Land Commission owns this. Here's the exit ramp, and the other guys own this. So the landing, this is the entrance road. The landing
I'll get a copy.
department, us,
I don't know if they redo
we
it.
just own this.
I think it's supposed to be one
And
of
actually, I think
those
we own the
five-year
beach.
renewals.
I think we own the beach.
And the dock is on town property,
No action's taken, I
Yes.
don't know.
the entrance to the dock.
Yeah, well, the other, oh, you mean down here? The entrance to the dock might be, that's the beach, that might be ours, what it is now. All right, should we pursue signs? I'll find out how much signs cost.
I think so, I think we should try to have some consistency
Yep.
there, and like you said, we're not worried about Horseneck Point
Yep.
right now,
Right,
and,
and Emma Trip is hard to,
yeah,
that rehab.
we went back and forth on Emma Trip, and I think Brian looked at rocks or something, right?
right, but then we decided to do a sign
Oh,
for as
okay.
long as it would last. The other issue, and unfortunately, Sue Brayton isn't here, the abutter to the east of Emma Tripp regularly parks overnight. For some reason, she rents that trailer for the summer. She regularly parks overnight in the landing. And she's got a blue 50-gallon garbage can that somebody throws beer cans into and stuff. I'm assuming her. That for some reason she rolls out of her sight across the border. I'm no longer excited about yet speaking with her. And Sue Brayton spoke with her last year. And so I guess I should speak with Sue about speaking with her again.
So she parks in the landing at night?
Even during the day. And on some level, if you're parking in the landing, you're supposed to be using the landing. Even though she has parking spaces between the trailer that she rents and the road, I don't know if she's expecting guests or whatever it is, or if she wants to watch her car. I don't know what her deal is, but I don't think she necessarily leaves it there overnight. I think she moves it there during the day. So, I will speak with Sue Brayton.
Do we have a
Are you
fine?
supposed to have a permit for that, to park there?
No. No, that is a non-permitted landing. And
Maybe it should.
many of the landings in town cannot be permitted because they were established and they were given to the landing commission for a certain purpose. And it's the terms of the deed. And in fact, Adamsville Landing became a landing when Westport was part of Rhode Island. So we would have to allow all of the state of Rhode Island and Westport if we were to start selling permits there. And that may be the case with the head landing also, or the head landing would have, probably include most of Dartmouth. So it would be complicated to take those over. But someday, I am surprised that I have not seen the head landing real parked up the way it has in the past. It seems like there's less interest in kayaking there than there used to be. But I am also aware that at Hicks Bridge Landing, I went by there one day and I saw a 30-ish woman pulling a kayak out of the river there. She didn't look like she was from Westport. It's like spandex and stuff, and I stopped. And I said, hi, you have a good paddle? And she said, yeah. And I said, you know this is like a permit place? And she said, yeah, I decided to take a chance. I said, well, do you live in town? It's a cheap permit. She said, actually, no, I live in Boston. I said, oh, you're just down for the day to do this? She said, yeah. I said, how did you find this out? She said, it's on Kayaking Is Us, or Us, on the internet.
So the question is, where did she park?
Oh, no, she just broke the law.
So she parked at the landing?
Yeah, and did not have a ticket. She decided to take the chance, which is fine. I
I
mean,
don't know if she got dumped off.
but anyhow, I did go to that website and I corrected the website that says it is a permit landing and you might get ticketed and whatever the fine is. And I said a few other things. But I think the reality may be that we may see more and more and more people at some of these landings, or we may not. We don't know. I mean, certainly Gooseberry's become overrun and gets parked up very quickly. 7 days a week in the summer I go down there and it is full.
Well, it's free too.
I know, well, that's part of it. But we don't have anything to do, so I will pursue signs. As always, since we are now on TV, many of these landing commissioners are people who may not want to be landing commissioners forever. So if any of you out on TV want to come and have fun once a month, think about running for election. It's pretty easy because you'll probably be running alone. I'm looking at you, Doc. But consider it. It's good to have somebody who's from that neighborhood, and we really appreciate you coming. So please come back whenever. And if you'd like, I can put you on our email list when I tell the rest of the fun people here that we're gonna have a meeting.
Great.
Okay. Do we have any minutes for approval? Seeing none, we're moving right along to other business not anticipated at the time of posting.
None.
Hearing none,
Nobody?
we need a next meeting date. Why don't we set something now, and I will be speaking with the engineering company. I will try to get them here along with the planning board for our next meeting. So today's the 26th. How about October 24th? Actually, my wife's birthday is the day before.
Are you gonna celebrate that hard?
Well, she might want to go away. Could we do the 17th? Could we do the 17th?
Oh, okay.
4 o'clock on the 17th.
That's a rowing day.
What?
That's a rowing day.
Isn't Tuesday always a wrong day?
Oh, so we're gonna go the next day, not another Tuesday? I thought we were going a week before.
That's what I was thinking, the 17th.
Okay, but if you're gonna go away,
Oh, no, but didn't I say, no, her birthday is the following week, is the 23rd. We're just under some pressure to move along.
oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tuesday, the 17th at the moment. And I will see if the engineering folks can be here and all, and then I will reconfirm with you folks.
4 o'clock.
Yes. So, if that works for everybody enough at the moment.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey. Yeah.
Uh,